Happy New Year, everyone. This is a time of year when most of us are thinking about what we want to see happen in the new year, desires or goals that God has put in our hearts. I have never been much for New Year's resolutions, and I should restate that. I have never been very disciplined in keeping my New Year's resolutions. But recently, God has led me on a journey. When I say recently, I mean the last several years of experimentation and God just clarifying some things for me to the point where I have a health plan for 2026. This is the product, as I said, of probably 8 years that have honestly been pretty dark for me. A lot of amazing stuff has happened, but my internal world has been very difficult for me to manage. It is safe to say I have not been all that healthy. So before I share what God has led me to for this year, I just wanted to ask you, what is health? How would you define health? I looked it up, and the definition, official definition, is a state of being free from illness or injury. And I was like, okay, that's fine, but I think it's incomplete. Health is not just avoiding injury. Here's what health represents to me. Living as the person God made you to be. And the thing about that is, compared to the traditional definition of health, there may be some injury. There may be some illness. Jesus didn't promise a problem-free life, but health is the continual pursuit of the person God made you to be, regardless of your circumstances. For example, what is something you do that makes you feel more alive when you do it? Maybe it's going for a hike, maybe it's writing music, spending time with friends, maybe it's a hobby you used to have but you no longer have in your life. What are those things that when you're unhealthy, when you're struggling, you nearly always feel better when you do them? See, I've come to believe that health is not something we attain. Like we say, once I get healthy, then, as if it's a destination that we arrive at, and then what? Health is not something we attain. I believe it is something we maintain. Health is not a product. It is a pursuit of the person God made us to be. And I realize that requires a process of discovery. So that's why I wanted to share a little bit of my process, not to show off my plan or to say this is the right way to do it. And yeah, I'd be lying if I didn't say I'm getting some nice accountability here, somebody to say, how's that going? That is something we all need. But my primary reason for sharing is because of how dark much of the last 8 years has been for me personally in ways that most people don't know. I think many people would be surprised to know that I had recurring statements running through my mind almost daily for years at a time. Statements like, I just want to sink into the earth and die. Now, God has brought me through that dark season. I believe He's bringing me out of it, but He's used specific things related to how He's made me to be as a person to foster more healthy mindset and just body and holistic health. So I wanted to share this with you. It's what I'm calling for myself the spirit of health. The spirit of health, and spirit being an acronym of 6 words that for me represent who God made me to be. And my plan, which I won't go into, of course, all of the details of how I'm planning to work this out, but there's very specific activities that I'm committing myself to do in this coming year. Manageable things that I can continue and sustain rather than, hey, I'm going to go work out for 2 hours every day at the gym all year. I'll never be able to pull that off. But I've come to some things, not one quick fix that'll make me healthy, right? If you go on Amazon or you go on different places, you'll find that this is the one thing you need. But for me, it's not the fix. We're always after a fix. What we need to focus on is formation. That's Jesus' work in us. It is being continually shaped into, yes, the image of Christ, but also the image of the person God designed us to be that many times we get off track from. So the spirit of health is what it's called. The first area, and I just want to talk through these words. For me, the most foundational, the S is spiritual. Surprise. Everything I am is because of Him. I actually wrote that word spirit on the video thumbnail in cursive to show how this first area must connect to every other thing we do in our lives and vice versa, right? Trying to be healthy apart from the active, abiding presence and spirit of God is like trying to run a marathon with no oxygen in your lungs. You'll die. But the other reason this is important is because if you want to live as the person that God made you to be, what better way than to be near the God who made you, right? He will reveal continually what health looks like for you. He'll invite you into things. He'll invite you to let go of things. The further we get from our spiritual life, I believe the further we get from actual health. Years ago when I was in college, and I was getting it done, and I've always been a bit of an achiever. I had a list a mile long, and I was sitting there at the beginning of the day overwhelmed. And one of the few times where I know God spoke to me, it was like someone was in the room. I literally looked around like, what just happened? And I heard these words loud and clear. The most important thing you can do today is connect with me. I've never forgotten those words. I'm sure I never will to the day I die because they just came out of nowhere as I was trying to decide what is most important for me to get done today. And I just heard those words. The most important thing you can do today is connect with me. That is still the case today for me. It is still the case for all of us today. So that's the S, spiritual. And what this means for me practically, just briefly, is starting my day in the Word with prayer. And for me in this season, purposely not trying to read a lot. I don't want to slide into this academic mindset where I'm checking off my achiever box and I'm getting the thing done. I want to make it manageable because in many ways, as a pastor, I have in some ways lost my personal intimacy in my professional life as a pastor. I know that sounds probably crazy to some people, but when I'm reading the Bible, I'm like, oh man, this would make a great sermon, right? And it's like getting out of that mindset and just being able to be with the Lord is something I'm literally rehabilitating in my personal life. And so just reading a little bit and praying every day is my goal. If I miss a day, what if you miss a day? Get up and do it again the next day, right? Not allowing those moments to become weapons for the enemy to sow seeds of shame and say, see, I told you you couldn't do it. Just say, oops, I missed a day. I got too busy. And then start again tomorrow, right? So that's the S, spiritual. Physical is the P. Jesus gave us bodies which we need to take care of if we want to be healthy. An example of this is you can have a car with the biggest, coolest engine in the world. But if the frame is rusty or the wheels are falling off, it is not going to matter how cool your engine is. See, the body is the frame for our soul. And here's the thing, I've never gone on a walk or a run or a bike ride and come back feeling more down than when I left. And maybe some of you are different. That's okay because this is my health plan. I'm guessing most of us, though, could probably say something similar, that if you're depressed, you're down, and you go take care of your body in some way, you will come back feeling better. We need to pay attention to those things and say, interesting. Maybe that needs to be a regular priority. When I'm active, I feel like this is who God made me to be, not some crazy long distance runner. I don't really think of myself as a runner, but he made me to move. He made me to push. He made me to do hard things when I just want to sit and watch TV. You see, I just feel that health come back into my body and into my soul. So for me, this is the discipline of exercise at least twice a week. I have started running. When I'm at the office sitting in my chair, which I do a lot of the day, I set my watch as a reminder every hour to get up and do something. So I'll do 3 sets of push-ups, I'll do lunges. It literally takes me like a minute. And then I go back to work, but with my blood pumping and I'm reinvigorated and I think more clearly, right? So it's just the little things along the way. It's not something we attain. Once I can run the half marathon, I'll be healthy. No, I think it's a discipline. I think it's something we maintain over time. And I was on a run recently, speaking of doing hard things, and being willing to go after the hard thing that scares us. I was running and I thought of that statement as I was running and hurting. Pain is in the mind, right? You know, there's that statement. And I just revolted against that in my spirit as I was running. I was like, no, it is not. Pain is in the body. I am feeling my pain in my body right now. But then I had this immediate follow-up thought, something about running that clarifies thinking for me. Pain is in the body, but the implications of pain are in the mind, right? I don't know if I'm a better runner than I used to be or if it hurts less to run, maybe a little bit. But I think the biggest difference is that over time I'm learning as the pain comes into my body, this isn't going to kill me, right? The implications of pain. I'm not going to die for going on a run. In fact, I'm going to get to the end of this run and feel better than when I started. And the more you do that, the more you learn, wait a sec, this is actually good for me. So that's just an encouragement to go after something hard. Go after something you've been avoiding. So spiritual and physical are the S and the P of the spirit of health. The next one is intellectual. So I have a goal when I get to the office to just read 20 minutes of any book. Now, a book that I'm going through, and I try to be strategic based on things I'm trying to learn and grow in. The reason is because I'm an achiever. Not necessarily in a professional sense, but in the sense of getting tasks done. I have always been that way. And when I get to the office, my motor is running and I'm getting all these things done and I'm running, but in a way that doesn't always leave me feeling real healthy at the end of a day. And if you know what I'm talking about, right? And reading is one of those, feels like a waste of time to the achiever in me. Well, I'm just sitting here looking at words. But when I do that, it calms that motor. It slows me down. It allows me to settle in and be more strategic in my achievement. Does that make sense? I took a gifts test and my number 1 was achiever. My number 2 was strategist. So I like to get things done and I like to think about the best way to get things done. But if I'm honest, the achiever is that 20-year-old kid in the driver's seat ripping around corners, and the strategist is relegated to the back seat. He's the old wise man who has some things to say, but the young man is just too busy. And I've just pictured this metaphor of like, get that young man over in the passenger seat. Let that old man drive. And then you guys can work together in a little more strategic way that actually still gets things done, but in a way that matters and presents more health. So a little bit of a rabbit trail though in my own journey there. But when I think about this aspect of intellectual, Paul said in Romans 12 that we are transformed by what? The renewing of our minds. So if we're not disciplined in what we're thinking about, if we're not in God's word, if we're not in good literature and books and things that are engaging us intellectually, I don't think we're going to grow and be healthy in the way God made us to. SPIR, that is relational. Relational. My tendency when I'm unhealthy is to isolate. It's to withdraw. I have felt that many times on a Sunday morning. I come into Sunday morning and it takes everything I am to go out and talk to people. It's not because I don't like people. It's just because of that protective mechanism of I'm vulnerable. I don't know what people are going to say. What if somebody complains about something? Relational, though, is part of health, right? We have to be around people. And like running, I can say I've never come home from a Sunday morning, even if that morning I didn't want to do it, I didn't want to preach, or I didn't want to come. I've never come home not feeling invigorated. Because God made us to be around people. And for me, I am probably more of an extrovert than an introvert. And so prioritizing relationships in my life is part of health, even when I don't feel like it. And that for me, just practically is like, when I'm around people, I learn that I'm not the only one with problems. I learn that if I get my eyes off myself and ask a good question about someone else's week, it always produces health in me. It always produces a sense of stability and calm. And what I found is the first 3 letters that I just shared, spiritual, physical, intellectual, when I'm prioritizing those, I'm actually stronger in my relationships. I have more to give when I'm physically active and when I'm reading a book, I want to go to that meeting with that person that I might otherwise not want to go to because there's things going on in my mind that I want to process and I want to hear what they're reading, right? When I'm working out, I am less irritable with my kids. I've heard that from multiple people. I think it is a pattern, right? So I don't know why, and I know there's biological reasons, there's spiritual reasons. God made us to be moving. So those are just those pieces of health. So being disciplined in spending time, for me, it starts with my family. It starts with my kids. It starts with my wife. It quiets those overarching judgments of, you're not a good dad. You're not a good husband. You're not a good friend. Those are narratives that have plagued me my whole life, right? These overarching final judgment statements like you are just a bad blank, right? And many of you know what I'm talking about. Those are lies of the enemy. And I realize rather than trying to disprove those lies or fight them or make them untrue, set them aside. Don't care about whether or not you're a good blank or a bad blank. Let someone else make that judgment after you're gone, right? Just focus on doing the next right thing, right? Today. What is the kind of dad I want to be? Based on my definition of good dad, bad dad. Well, I want to be a dad who pays attention to his kids. Okay, today. Pick one kid. Pay attention. Play a card game. When they come up and talk to you, set your phone down and look them in the eyes and stay there until they're done talking, right? Find little things that, hey, whether or not it changes the overarching judgment, you're a good or you're bad, that has never been the point. That is Satan, right? So choose to be good. Choose health. One choice after another. So the next I in this acronym is inspirational. Another way of putting this is creativity. We were made to be moved by beauty. I recently read this in a book. We were made to be moved by beauty. And it has absolutely proven true in my life. Whether I'm writing a poem, which is never all that good, but I'm working at it and I found the right word and yes, I found that word. Playing a song, sometimes even writing a sermon for me. That process of creativity and discovery is inspirational for me. Playing guitar, even listening to music. Some of you, that's a place for you. Being outside in nature. I am always healthier when I am looking around and noticing the beauty of God's world. It's not an accident God placed us in an extravagantly beautiful world. You know, this last year, my mom passed away at the beginning of the year, and I was walking around the parking lot of this hotel where I was staying when I was there visiting her. I was sad. I was thinking about a Bible verse. I was praying a little bit, trying to pray. And it was another one of those moments where I feel like God spoke to me, not as vivid as the one I already shared, but as the sun was coming up, I was walking around the parking lot of this hotel, and I heard so clearly, look for beauty. Look for beauty. And it wasn't a rebuke of God telling me not to be sad about my mom dying. It was just an encouragement. Look for beauty. And it was the sunrise coming up. And what I would say for that, in that moment, I also felt God sort of impress on me, not just the big moments, not just the sunrise moments, but the laughter of a little child. Two kids chasing each other in the church gym. The first flower of spring coming up. A deer, right? Deer that are everywhere in parts of Missoula. Notice the deer. Wow, what an animal, right? That song that you hear and it tingles, feel chills go up your spine. A movie that moves you, and you get done with it and go, man, that was good. See, when I heard those words, look for beauty, something happened in my heart that was literally what I needed to be able to say goodbye to my mom. It was. My circumstances didn't change. Nothing changed except my heart was different, right? Allow yourself to be inspired. Don't get jaded. Don't get cynical. Don't get so utilitarian or achiever in your job that you're just getting things done and trying to meet people's expectations. Pause for beauty. The last one is a T. It stands for trivial. I admitted earlier, and I've multiple times said I'm an achiever. I want to get things done. I want to get them done the most efficient way possible. But if you read the Bible, God often leads people on some pretty inefficient journeys to teach them about himself and about themselves. The Israelites in the wilderness, there was a way, if you know the story, that was far more efficient and took way less time to get them to where God was taking them. But God's aim was not just to get them there. God's aim, I thought of it this way, was not just to get his people out of Egypt. He had to get Egypt out of his people. I just want that to sink in. Right? That takes time. And the Bible says God does his work even while we're sleeping, David says multiple times. Solomon had a dream where God asked him what he wanted, and Solomon said wisdom. And it says the next morning he woke up with wisdom. Solomon went to bed without wisdom. He woke up with wisdom. How did that happen? It's because God does some of his best work when we stop. And we do things maybe that feel a little trivial, especially in this achiever-producing culture that we're in. Jumping on the trampoline with my kids, right? That checks a couple, by the way, when multiple of these letters sort of join in one activity, those are like my high strategic activities, right? If I'm being physical and also relational with someone, that breeds so much health. I can feel it. When I'm jumping on the trampoline with my kids, that's relational. It's also a little trivial. Like, what am I doing? I'm jumping on the trampoline, but it teaches me that I'm not here to just get a bunch of stuff done for God. I'm here to enjoy the world that he made. I'm here to enjoy people. I have a son that asked to play Uno on the floor multiple times a week. Hey, Dad, can we play Uno? 99% of the time I say, yep, let's do it. Deal the cards, right? That for me is prioritizing. And it sounds bad to say trivial. It's not trivial to spend time with my son, but in the midst of the things that I feel like I need to get done before the end of the day, that feels trivial. And so I move toward those things. Going fishing. I like fly fishing. And people are like, so do you keep them? Do you eat them? I'm like, no, I let them go. And I don't have some like deep ethical conviction that you have to let fish go. If you want to eat fish, keep them and eat them. I just don't. And if you look at that on paper, that's pretty trivial. You go catch fish to let them go? Why are you doing that? Beauty, inspirational, but also there is an element of just letting your soul breathe a little bit with something that someone else may say, well, that's pretty trivial, right? God didn't just make us to get things done. He made us to enjoy the world. And sometimes the most strategic thing you can do is rest. Stop. So that's a drive-by of my plan for 2026. And I just want to say the most empowering aspect of this plan for me has not been one of these areas, but the overarching, how do I say this, recovery of agency. Right? One of the persistent themes during the dark season of wilderness for me is the persistent belief that I can't change this. And many of you can relate to this. And you slide into this victim mentality, and there's nothing I can do about this. And this is all that will ever be. I'm trapped. I'm enslaved. And there is, if I can be honest, this drift in our culture toward that victim mindset. We find someone or something to blame. We live in the past. We dwell on the failures or something someone did to us, and we just sit in our dysfunction. And God has just stirred me up, and he's motivated me this year to push because I don't want to be a person who every time I encounter someone, I'm whining about how hard my life is. Yes, there's a place to share our burdens, and for me to be honest, hey, today was a hard day. That's normal. But man, I went through a season, and some of you were on the front lines of that in my life, where just every time I was like, oh. And I'm just realizing I have agency. Yes, there are things that I can't control. Make a list of those things, by the way, that you can't control. And you're going to find you have a lot longer list of things you can control. You can get up. You can read your Bible. You can pursue physical health. And the more you do that, the more you have to offer others who are struggling, the more you have to bless people with, to encourage them that they can do the hard thing as well. So it's just not about an activity for me as much as about agency. And every time I exercise agency, health breeds health, right? When I have this sense of like, I'm running. Why am I running? This is the craziest. Why do people run? This hurts. And when I keep going, I come back wanting to do another hard thing. You see? I want to call that person I've been avoiding. Health breeds health. When you make the choice, when you exercise discipline, and you realize I can make a change. I can pursue the person God made me to be. So I hope this has been helpful for you. And if you're interested in pursuing something like this, I would just encourage you to answer that first question. Who is that person God made you to be? What are those things you do that you feel healthier when you do them? And build that out. Journal about it. Hey, I identified one today. Maybe for you it's physical. What specifically is a manageable physical activity for you that you can prioritize? And then get accountability. Share your plan with somebody. If you want to share it with me, I'm happy to hear it. I'm happy to share more of my plan with you if you want it. But I was thinking about just this one answer approach to health, which I grew up with, like whether somebody was deeply depressed or whether they this or that. It was like in the church, it was read your Bible more, pray more, And I was just thinking to myself, a car is complex, many, many parts, and nowhere near as complex as our bodies, who we are as people. But if your car dies, if your engine gives out, let's say that happens, would you schedule an appointment to get your tires changed? Stupid, right? Nobody would do that. If your ankle was broken, would you take Pepto-Bismol? No, right? We understand logically, and yet when it comes to health, we're treating symptoms with the wrong thing. And so we are too complex, I think, for the one approach to health. Our life, I will say, as a caveat, the S, the capital and cursive S, is absolutely foundational to everything. That doesn't come or go. That has to be at the root of all this because God made you. God is the only one who knows what health is for you. But he made us complex, and I think he wants to lead us all on a journey of what it means to not attain health, but to pursue and maintain and more become the person God created us to be. So I pray God's blessing on your health journey this year.